Welcome to the Terre Haute Police Department. I'm Sergeant Justin Sears, Public Information Officer with the Terre Haute Police Department. Yesterday, on 9/11, multiple juveniles from our community issued threats of violence via social media that instilled fear in students, staff, families, and the community in general. I stand here today with the leaders from local law enforcement, the city, the prosecutor's office, the school corporation, to make it very clear, this behavior will not be tolerated. Both the Vigo County Sheriff's Office and the Terre Haute Police Department were alerted to multiple threats against students, staff, and schools. These threats were shared primarily through Snapchat and other social media platforms. The first threat targeted Otter Creek Middle School, which was investigated by the Vigo County Sheriff's Department in cooperation with the school corporation and the Terre Haute Police Department. A juvenile was arrested as a result of that investigation and transported to the juvenile center. In response to that initial threat, the Terre Haute Police Department placed officers and detectives into the schools throughout our community immediately. In the early afternoon, a second threat was discovered regarding Terre Haute South High School. Thanks to officers already on scene, the threat was swiftly investigated and an arrest was made almost immediately. Later in the day, a third threat was directed at Terre Haute North High School just before dismissal. Again, officers were already on scene and an arrest was made shortly after the school day ended. Throughout the afternoon, an influx of information came in from students, parents, and community members regarding these threats. Detectives investigated each report thoroughly, although many were related to the earlier incidents. However, in the evening, a fourth threat surfaced against Woodrow Wilson Middle School. Detectives identified the source and a fourth juvenile was arrested shortly after. We are deeply grateful for the students, the staff, parents, and community members who have come forward with information about these incidents. It's important to note that we are not alone in facing such threats. Communities across the country, as close as nearby counties, have experienced similar incidents, often involving identical photographs with edited text messages. Preliminary investigations indicate that none of the juveniles involved in these threats have the means or ability to carry them out. The Vigo County Sheriff's Department and the Terre Haute Police Department have coordinated with the school corporation and have had extra and additional police officers in every school in Vigo County. We plan to continue an increased presence for the near future. With that being said, I'd like to address the issue of the release of information that most people have had concerns or have inquired upon. The Terre Haute Police Department prioritizes releasing information with the safety of the community as a top priority, followed by the needs of the investigation. When officers were already on scene at the high schools during the reported threats and arrests were quickly made, it was determined that releasing information immediately would compromise the preservation of evidence and the ability to interview witnesses effectively. Additionally, the threat at Woodrow Wilson School was reported and investigated after school hours. Our goal is to provide timely information. However, we must ensure that it is both complete and accurate. Investigations involving juveniles often require more time due to the necessity of adhering to the due process, which includes the presence of parents and guardians during the investigation. We appreciate the community's understanding as we work to protect both the safety and justice of our community. At this time, I'll introduce Mayor Sakbun. I'll have a brief announcement, and then we'll take questions after.
Thank you, Justin. First and foremost, I really want to reiterate what Officer Sears hit on, and that is our focus on public safety in the community, which of course includes school safety for our kids in the Vigo County School Corporation. As Justin also mentioned, mayors, governors across the United States of America are seeing this trend the last couple of days. There are some stock images, and this is a huge reason why earlier this year the administration made the decision to further collaborate with the school corporation by placing juvenile detectives into our school corporation. That paid off tenfold yesterday as the events turned out. Additionally, I want to reiterate the administration's decision to have a task force with the FBI. Thanks to that task force, we were able to help our county and our corporation as well as surrounding counties. The Terre Haute Police Department, the Vigo County Sheriff, the Prosecutor's Office, and the school corporation We're in direct communication throughout the day with the Terre Haute Police Department, also assisting surrounding counties navigate these challenges. We will continue to work in close partnership, the teams represented here today, with our focus being on public safety and, of course, protecting the Vigo County School Corporation. There is a cost to all of this. You will see the increased officers in their presence in our schools. You also see more state troopers in and around the community. So we are definitely working with our state partners and our federal partners in an effort to keep our kids and our communities safe. Thank you.
We'll now take any questions, and I'll work as the moderator as we take questions.
Yeah, I'm Ben with WTHI. So specifically, what were the threats that were made? And you did mention that they originated, you said, on Snapchat. Was that the original source, or had they simply been shared to Snapchat?
The original threats were directed specifically at schools. Due to investigation things, there are a few things that we can't specifically say. It's still open and ongoing. Most of them were shared. At this point, we believe that were shared. Some of them have even popped up as almost stock photos from other agencies and other cities and communities, all the way from Texas, Alabama, Arkansas, Kentucky, Virginia. Some of the same photos that we've seen and investigated are already out there and have been out there for almost the last week.
And just to clarify, it was gun threats, correct? Shootings?
Some were more vague, but still were obviously meant to instill fear in our community. But yes, some were pictures of weapons or mentioned weapons.
What can you say about consequences? You want to send a message this will not be tolerated. What should kids, students think about before they might do something like this?
On the Terre Haute Police Department side, before I'm sure Prosecutor Modesitt would like to address that, we want it to be known that we obviously take every threat as a credible threat, and we will investigate it thoroughly. And also, as the mayor said, we have the resources, the training, and the tools to do that. So it will be done, and we will investigate and work with the prosecutor's office to effect arrests to protect our community. We want students to know, and the children of our community that have made decisions with poor judgment, there will be consequences. So we can't stress that enough. Parents need to talk to their juveniles or their children to let that be known. As far as the actual consequences through the state, Prosecutor Modesitt.
Sure. So yesterday, based upon the actions of 4 different juveniles, they all have a felony charge presently pending against them. And that felony charge is intimidation. It carries a maximum sentence up to 2.5 years of imprisonment. So we're talking about serious charges here. And those of us sitting up here together are bonded together to protect our children and deal with these actions very harshly.
There are other consequences as well, as everybody that has been a juvenile that has been arrested has been a member of the school corporation. Dr. Hemsel, Superintendent.
Yeah, to begin with, before I get into the specifics of your question, Sue, these are our kids. When you're an educator, every child that walks through our school is one of our kids. We take ownership during the school day. We care for them in the same way that they are our own kids. And so when you threaten our schools, you have threatened our kids. And that's the perspective from which our staffs worked yesterday. You threatened one of our kids, and our staff pulled together, partnered with our local law enforcement agencies to make sure that our kids were protected and were safe. With that being said, I can't get into specifics because I am bound by the Family Education Rights and Privacy Acts. And even though these kids have disrupted our school community, they also are afforded those privacy rights. But I can tell you that we will go through our appropriate due process procedures, and there will be consequences for their actions that are within what we can do statutorily. But I can't get into the specifics of that other than to say that there will be consequences that are within the statutory availability, but we will also respect the privacy rights that these individuals have had afforded to them.
Are we able to get grades or ages for any of these students?
Okay. Not unless you want me to violate the law.
In addition to what Dr. Hemsel stated, is everybody up here either has a child in a school or a neighboring community school. So we don't just respond as police officers, we respond as parents or family members or related to the faculty and staff. So that's how we treat every one of these incidents with the utmost seriousness.
So throughout the 3 or 4 different incidents, how were they reported to the police? Was this through social media, parents concerned calling, or?
Again, the benefit of our great relationship with the other law enforcement and our school corporation, most of them came through the school corporation. Somebody in the school, a student or a parent, did the right thing and reported it to the school corporation, and it immediately gave it to us. Unfortunately, after the Otter Creek incident, but we already had officers in almost all the schools. And again, today and this morning, I'm sure most people noticed it, we had members of deputies and officers in every Vigo County school, additional, since 7:30 this morning, we've had additional officers there. And we'll keep a heavy presence there as long as we need it.
I think it would be appropriate, if I may, to reiterate, our partnership with the Vigo County Sheriff's Department and our partnership with the Terre Haute Police Department is very strong. We have a great collaborative relationship. This goes back for many years, but it has only been strengthened within the last year. We value the partnership. I think they value the partnership. And yesterday, watching it in action only reiterated that we are doing good stuff together in terms of partnering and collaborating together.
So going off of that, how did you guys collaborate together on this specific issue?
The best thing is just the share of information initially. And then, of course, we already have, like the mayor said, the SPO program is already in the schools, so we already have police officers there. The Vigo County School Corporation has been ahead of the game for over a decade as far as having officers in all the schools. We were one of the first communities to do that. So we've already had that relationship there, and then coordinate with the local law enforcement as well. And then Sheriff's Department, the Terre Haute Police Department, it's the same way. Information flows both ways, back and forth, and it makes our job to use each other's assets. To be able to share some of the assets that we have through our task force officers and the resources that we get with those task force officers, it's priceless, especially days like yesterday.
So I know that you had mentioned there will be an increased police presence at the schools. What happens now and what happens today? Should people be concerned, and what will police activity look like at the schools today?
Even since the beginning of the year, the Terre Haute Police Department has had additional patrols in the school zones, in the schools, and that's part of the relationship that we're building not only with the staff, but with the students. So they're seeing the officers, they're interacting with the officers. So we'll be, in addition to that, we'll keep a presence as needed. We'll still work different cases, and it'll change a little bit from back and forth. But our goal is whatever's needed, we can provide.
I think it would also be important to reiterate, Mr. Sears had already spoken earlier. Our kids are safe right now. I mean, there was nothing that we have found in these investigations that indicate that it is unsafe to send your kids to school. We are taking extra precautions. We're doing extra things. These are our kids, and we're doing everything possible to keep them safe. Our kids are in school. The kids that are in school are safe, and parents should not worry about that.
I have 2 children in Vigo County schools, in different schools, and they're both at school today. I had conversations with both of my children, like I'm sure most members of our community have, and they neither one of them had a qualm with going to school today. They both are familiar with their school resource officers. They know them by name. They interact with them every day. They feel safe when they go to the school. And like I said, and I'm sure like everybody else here, our children are in school today as well.
So there have been other threats made in other areas here in Indiana. Have you had any conversation with other law enforcement agencies about, similar threats?
Briefly, I had a conversation this morning. It's the same thing. A lot of the different media outlets were doing the same thing, and they're arresting people for the same incidents, the same text messages, the same threats. Just like we're trying to instill, we will not tolerate this. We are not going to allow you to put our community into fear without consequence.
And one last thing for me, is there any reason to believe that these individuals were in any way connected?
At this point, no. It doesn't. We don't have any information that says there's any sort of conspiracy between the two. In fact, it looks more like initial preliminary investigation shows that it's more of a copycat type version, and hopefully we'll find out more as the investigations go.
So these students are copying kind of what they're seeing nationally, and they're taking it and just...
TikTok, Snapchat, different trends. And then I do want to stress that a lot of these, they're just sharing it. Some of them are. Report it, don't share it. That's one of the biggest things. You're not helping things if you don't report it. Sharing is just making it worse.
I guess I've got a question for Terry. So in these typical situations, you touched on this a little bit earlier, but is this a typical procedure for prosecuting individuals who do this kind of stuff?
Yes. There's an investigation, and the investigation's obviously ongoing, and then once we look at whatever's been provided to us, then we file charges. Obviously, this one was expedited probably more than normal because, you know, there's a risk here to children. So, but yes, normal process as far as other than being expedited, and this was put ahead of everything else. All of us, you know, had to put this first yesterday because we wanted to make sure that our kids were safe.
And do you think that, you know, obviously prosecuting quickly sends a message to potential copycats, more copycats not to do it?
For sure.
Yeah, and then just to add to that is, as the prosecutor, we worked with the prosecutor's office to effect those arrests yesterday. As we did the investigations, they were accessible to us. Not everybody just up here, we're all in it together. However, we need help from our community as well. And that goes back with the parents and the responsible adults. And that's how we work as a team, and that's how we grow as a community. So it's not just us. We can't do our job without the assistance of our community.
We're all for juveniles taken to the juvenile center.
Yes.
Anything you would urge families and students to do or not to do in these cases, because there's a lot of false information shared.
Yeah,
If I step in,
absolutely.
so we need our parents to get involved. This is a national incident that's been going on over the last few days. It's shameful that this happened on 9/11 here. But we need our parents to get involved. We need our parents to talk to their children, look in their phones, tell them not to repost things that they see, to inform an adult about them. But the parents have to get involved here. We're just reactionary. The parents can actually stop this from happening from their homes, from their children's phones, and they need to get more involved with those phones.
So Sue, to reiterate the answer was just given, the best thing to do is to report the information so that we can find out if the information is actually truth. Because many of the things that were shared, if they had been reported to us, we would already have known that they were part of this
Absolutely.
national thing that was going on. But when we share things and we continue that sharing, it actually builds the fear instead of reporting it to people who can actually investigate it and do something about it. So anytime something is reported to us, we investigate to find out the truth. We follow the facts. And those facts is what drives how we respond to it. First and foremost, we take care of the safety of our students and our staff, and we investigate to find the facts, and we let the facts drive where we go from there.
So, yeah, just really to wrap this up in closing, there's a number of officers, detectives, who are not in this room, who their actions yesterday truthfully show the power of a strong law enforcement community. And we won't list their names here, they're still out doing their thing. But to the deans, the teachers, the parents, and of course the students who did report, these two tables would like to say thank you. We hope that these experiences do not continue, but if they do continue, that the message has been sent very clearly that they will not be tolerated in the city of Terre Haute. Thank you, guys.